Get up and get out. Get out. Get out.
I have a question for you.
Say Christ is Lord. Say Christ is Lord. Say it. You say Christ is Lord. Get out. Get out. Christ is Lord.
Hello and welcome in to another episode of Offensively Accurate, hosted by yours truly, Atlas Slugged, aka White Boy D Voice, aka another racially ambiguous groiper. Yes, make sure you smash the like button. I do appreciate that, guys. I want to shout out to LOL Marble. She says they're in the hospital, or he. I'm actually not sure. She, since they're in the hospital, just got a left hip replacement. Merry Solstice, Christmas cheer abounds, and Merry Christmas to you as well. Hope you're doing okay. And same goes for everybody else who's ultimately dealing with something as well, too. I know there's a couple people in our community dealing with some injuries, as well as Zeb Boykin dealing with his son over the weekend. I know he was probably glad to get back to the grindstone earlier today. And today's going to be a fun episode. Let's just get that out of the way. This is going to be a lot at once. And so obviously today, the main story of today is everything that's continuing to come out with the Epstein files. And in that, what we have today actually is there's a numerous amount of claims, or I guess you could really say allegations. And there's kind of like five main ones. Really, there's like 6, 7 all told, but there's really kind of 5 main ones that a lot of people are looking at. We're going to explore each and all of those on both sides a little bit, because some I find to be reasonable, others I find to be a bit more questionable in their credibility. In the same vein of what I had put in the video with Alex Jones yesterday, some of it kind of comes across as these were anonymous tips that were given. So we'll explore a little bit of that. We'll see how much is credible. We'll see how much is actually true. But like I had said yesterday, just given the nature and the way that they are obviously acting and treating this whole debacle, you can pull some truths from that. And I think that's obvious. They're obviously protecting something. What is that something? We also have a kind of dark moment with Erika Kirk and Nicki Minaj, of all people. And this was just insane to me because, no joke, in a matter of 24 hours after this event's going on, what we end up getting is, and I saw it from Samuel Costner, there's a video floating around now talking about Charlie Kirk actually saying, no, we don't want Nicki Minaj's values. And so this is obviously kind of a slap to the face, a continual slap in the face, if you will. And this is what's driving, I think, was kind of some of the most sad content I've ever seen, which is, yet again, another viral post of some random leftist with an anime profile picture that says, man, the best moment in her life was when her husband was killed. Hundreds of thousands of likes, millions of impressions. And it's like, to get to the point where you're having a lot of people saying, no, this is normal, it's like, well, the rest of the world really doesn't think that. The rest of the world actually thinks that there's something going on, and it's getting harder and harder to ignore. And the more that everybody acts like Erika Kirk is doing what every woman would do when her husband dies, is driving more of this contempt. So we'll explore a bit of that. We'll put the video up so you can see Charlie Kirk. I'll let Charlie Kirk answer for himself what he thinks about Nicki Minaj. We also have Owen Shroyer kind of digging his heels in a bit on the Israel narrative. There's a bit of a smaller beef building between him and Harrison Smith. Now, they haven't directly engaged each other, but there's been an obvious kind of anger from the InfoWars crowd. And I think this is kind of a little bit of what kind of was left on the table from their initial split, although it was very explosive in the beginning, and they kind of have not really talked about it much. It's not been in the news cycle as much. But Harrison Smith was responding to a group of, complaints from people, and I think partly from Alex Jones going at Candace Owens now too, where Harrison Smith says, well, actually, I'm more anti-Israel than Owen Shroyer has been in the entirety of his career. So like this narrative doesn't match up. And I'm curious what you guys think. I feel like they're kind of even, to be honest, but I would say actually right now, I think that if anything, I think Owen Shroyer has been a bit more, he's kind of made it more of his mainstay, what he's kind of been oppositional to since he's left. But I do think they're probably about even, and who's more anti-Israel if it's a competition, which it should be. That's the the competition of who's more of a patriot, right? The metric is how much do you oppose Israel? And then from there, we have Matt Gaetz and Tucker Carlson, which I thought was interesting because this has kind of been a story that I've been wanting to look into a lot more since it was initially introduced. And the story is essentially explaining, how Matt Gaetz is not himself, but how Matt Gaetz' father was extorted using Matt Gaetz and allegations that weren't true from a consulate who was working with Israel, who was texting Sky Adams, the creator of Dilbert, which is just insane. And we'll get into that and when we get to it. We also have what I find to be a bit more of a slap in the face, which is Ted Cruz is now supposedly, reportedly, allegedly looking and eyeing a run in 2028, which would make him in opposition to the frontrunner who is J.D. Vance. And quite literally going back to the argument of should we support Israel 100% or just 70%, which is kind of what the proposition will be. And I'm kind of looking at a lot of the people who are putting their name in the ring for the 2020 election. I can't really buy that they find themselves to be viable options. I can't buy the fact that Ted Cruz thinks he would beat a J.D. Vance, let alone a Marco Rubio in 2025. Maybe I'm a bit wrong on the Rubio, but J.D. Vance, no way. The same thing is true of Josh Hawley as well, which I find to be a bit curious, if you will, because Josh Hawley has even less play than both of those guys. And he was going out very, very strong with a very strong anti-abortion ticket. That's what it was being reported as, and a lot of other Republicans were angry at him. I think I've talked about that before. We can get into that. But ultimately, it's just a joke. Your conservative party is basically deciding between, will you give Israel $2 billion or you give them 1.5, and maybe we'll just talk a little bit less about them, which is obviously an indication of why the conservative movement is so fractured. And also a small piece and a small snippet about the fact that Charlie Kirk was actually blacklisted from Fox News from 2023 to 2025, which I didn't know. Man, I sounded like Candace there. I didn't like that. I was unaware of this actually, and so I looked at it a little bit, so we'll explore that somewhat. But I had really no idea that Charlie Kirk had been essentially blacklisted or had a bad relationship with Fox News, which is curious because the moment he's gone, Erika Kirk is actually all over Fox News again, and they're at AmFest, so it's a bit curious as well too. Another major development that's been made in the Charlie Kirk assassination case with the defense for Tyler Robinson has actually made a motion or moved to make a motion because they want to remove the Utah County's attorney, not the whole prosecution, but there's one specific attorney they want to remove from the prosecution. And they say that there is actually a conflict of interest. And I believe the allegation, and we'll explore that, there's a video we'll watch, but I believe the allegation basically puts it that one of the members of the prosecution, one of the attorneys on the prosecution, had been receiving text messages to a family relative that was close to the situation before he was assigned to the case. And so we'll see where that goes. But again, all of it is kind of where I have been looking at what the defense has been doing, which again, going back to my prediction, you can agree with it or disagree with it. But my prediction is that Tyler Robinson will get a not guilty verdict. Whether that comes through mistrial or some other avenue like that, it is clearly looking like the defense is trying as hard as they possibly can to put as much barriers before we can even get to the actual context of the conviction. And I think they'll have an easy path forward with that on two ends. I think for one thing that I hadn't thought about, which I'll mention second, but the first is what I've been saying, which is I do have a belief that ultimately, given what Candace Owens has been doing and just the overall amount of the volume of evidence and in claims of this person, that person, this way, that way, I do think that will bode in the defense's favor of there's clearly an extreme amount of evidence. And then also you turn that over to the jury too, which is how are you going to find a jury that's not heard of the case? And let alone, even if you select one now, how are you going to guarantee that they're not going to look into the case as the closer we get to the actual, hearings? And I think the next in-person hearing is in January. I think it's January 16th. So there's a lot there, but also then the secondary reason is what was also put forward by the defense in light with this allegation that there is somebody who has a conflict of interest. They put forward that the rush to get the death sentence for Tyler Robinson, they say is indicative of an emotional reaction or an augmented emotional reaction that may have something to do with the prior knowledge they got. But we'll explore that just a little bit. We also have, again, should have left this at the top, James Fishback and Beardson will be having a sit down. I don't know if they'll be in person or probably remotely at 9 p.m. Eastern. So I'm going to make sure I sign off quick enough so we can go and watch that where you guys can go and watch that. But I think that would be something to absolutely pay attention to. I think Beardson will be somebody who's going to drive the Groyper points really hard. So we'll see how close James Fishback really is. And hopefully we'll get the actual answer of like what he was doing with Barry Weiss and Bill Ackman that Beardson's been driving home. So again, 9 p.m. Eastern, and I think that'll be on Kick on Beardson's channel. I'll be trying to finish up at 8 so we can get to that too. And then I'm also going to be on the back end covering the Columbus ICE versus the protesters and immigrants. I mean, I'm sure you guys have caught a little bit of wind of this so far because it's making more and more national headlines. And this is something that I said about, a year or 2 years ago, which is there is an exceptional amount of immigrants and have been in Columbus. And I noticed it because I was telling you guys when I was doing Uber Eats, like the amount of just like, I felt like my life was being threatened, just being on the road in general. For one, they can't drive. All these immigrants are really going crazy. It's literally what the meme says, like, I turn left now, good luck everybody. That's what it feels like. It's like, holy shit, man, like, damn. But beyond that, I mean, I'm talking like, if I would go to certain areas where I'm delivering food, it's supposed to be nice areas in Columbus. And next thing you know, I'm like the only white guy in the next like 5 square miles. Things that shouldn't have been happening in Columbus, especially because I literally have been in Ohio my entire life. Although I haven't lived in Columbus my entire life. I've been to Columbus ever since I was a young kid. It was like the only like city, close to me. When I was growing up in the rural area. And we have the mayor protecting, aiding and abetting, alerting people like, hey, make sure you know all of your rights. We have the chief of police of Columbus was giving instructions of telling her police to like not assist them. Everyone's getting a warning. Make sure you record everything on video. Dude, there may never be a better comment than what this one is. This is just funny. I'm not making fun of you. But from Orthodox Boomer Grandma, she asked, what does cooked mean? And that's very funny. Cooked in that sense means that it's over. They are roast. They are done for. They are, it's over. It's funny. I thought that was a pretty good comment. Thank you very much for that. And yes, I've been in the central west area and now closer to the northern west area here too. And also beyond there, we have 2 community submissions. Well, one really, but it's going to be a story about Jeanette Markin, which is a unfortunate story about a 75-year-old woman who was, I believe in Seattle, who got beat with a broken piece of wood that had screws sticking out of it from a, no joke, repeat offender who had stabbed people, one person 8 times, who was just walking on the street, beating a 75-year-old woman. She lost her eye, she broke her cheekbone and something else, and it was covered by literally nobody. And I believe the offender's name is something to the effect of Fale Vakapale Fele. Sounds very American to me if you're asking me. Thank you, Tix. I appreciate that. I was gonna bring that up when we get to the story. Which one of the comments really from the cops is like, dang, he usually punches people. He doesn't stab. like I guess he escalated today. It's like, that is insane to me. The cops are trash. What cooked means in this context is the fact that Donald Trump is done. There's no surviving, I think, this current storm here. And I think again today, you having people defending and pushing, what's the word? This is a Democrat hoax. You guys really don't understand it. You're, all the people coming out and saying like, hold on, hang on. Here's why everything's wrong. And we'll take a look at some of the comments here from Viva Fry. But long-winded intro. We're going to get into it, starting with Epstein and Trump. Appreciate everybody for being here. Let's get it started.
That's the view.
So the first thing that we're going to be taking a look at is going to be claim number 1. And that is probably the most explosive out of all of these claims, which is an affidavit from a person of a person. And so it's essentially the affidavit. It basically details a person's recalling of a conversation that they had with a taxi driver. And so I'll go straight to it here. There was a video floating around. I'm going to go straight to the affidavit, and then this is probably one of the first ones that has a bit of, could go either way. And so I'll tell you what I mean by that. So this is what we have here. It's from Melanie Diaragio. It's probably the most viral one. It's got almost like 10 million views now. And so she's got the quotes there, and the quotes are, quote, he raped me. Quote, Donald J. Trump had raped her along with Jeffrey Epstein. Quote, she was found with her head, quote, blown off. There's no way it was a suicide. And then it finishes with, now we're starting to see why Trump was hiding the Epstein files, and it probably gets much worse. And so the redacted portions here is what you're going to see in the very top. Asked redacted about his time during a limousine driving a limousine for 2 years in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. And so it's a recalling of a conversation a taxi driver had heard referencing this girl there. And so almost immediately in the comments, you get things from people like Viva Fry. And so I'll show you the opposition to this before I go much further with that one. Now, what I'll say before I read this, even from Viva Fry, is this one has been removed from the Department of Justice. You can no longer find it on the Justice Department's website, which also raises some more suspicions, given the fact that it definitely can't be that they're taking down fake stuff by any definition, because what was also included in this Epstein file dump is a fake AI generated video of supposedly Jeffrey Epstein, harming himself. And what people really rather quickly found, the community noted it, and what they found was that there was like a video that had been posted on YouTube back in like 2021 or 2020. It's like 5-year-old video. It's a recreation. It wasn't real. So that can't be the reason. They're not taking stuff down because it can be fake. So what would be the reason here? So, what does Viva Fry say to this document? Viva Fry says, you do realize what this document is, right? An anonymous tip called in to the FBI by someone who is clearly mentally ill, which contains hearsay spewed by someone with a clear mental illness. Now again, it's getting a bit aggressive here. But that's kind of the point here. This is an anonymous tip that was called into the FBI. And now he says, by someone who is clearly mentally ill, which contains hearsay spewed by someone with clear mental illness. Now, I think this is obviously being extremely subjective, but we'll worry about that in a second. He goes on, he says, you do realize that's what this is, right? Because if you don't realize that, you're an idiot. And if you do understand that, you are a liar. So which one is it? And so this is kind of the emotional response that we're getting. This is the Susie Wiles Defense Network is clearly, they have put up their iron dome around Donald Trump. And here's what I would say with that one in particular. In that one specifically, there's also connections saying that this guy also had given a tip regarding the Oklahoma City bomber that turned out to be like not corroborated. So the allegation overall remains unproven, and that is basically what this is. This is testimony, but it also doesn't look good at all. And I would say what surrounds the overwhelming element, before I get even too much further than all of this, the whole reason why the show is called Copy and Paste for today, or reason why the episode's titled that, is because the way that they had used and pushed out the Epstein files, the ones that were set for public release under the Transparency Act that was pushed by Epstein and Rokana, was that they were using Adobe Acrobat to redact the information. Now, the reason why that is important and why it's crucial, and I could be wrong about the specifics of the technical aspects, from what I understand is this, is that Adobe Acrobat, because it is a PDF tool, it's not like a Word tool or like a image tool. Well, because it's not a word tool, it's closer to being an image tool. And because it's closer to being an image tool, they have like layers. So like the text is a layer, the redactions is a layer, and the layer underneath is kind of like the background layer. And so from what I understand was they had basically just had placed a layer over top of these things, which is why using Adobe Acrobat, you were able to, and what people were seeing all over, which is there's already now more information coming out. I believe largely one of them that was named was referencing Indike. And this is something to be curious about too. I'm surprised more creators haven't been doing this. But as I was going to Reddit, I was catching this up because I was seeing that House is posting links into the Discord community area. And they've already been pulling things down and re-uploading them with the fixes corrected for. And so there's a Discord. I'm not going to highlight it because I don't know really who it is and like if it's private or public or whatnot. But I got into a Discord. It's got like 2,000 members. It started like 3 days ago. And they were all a bunch of people crowdsourcing, like, has anyone done this one? Epstein file this one? Has anybody tried this one? And so some of them, it looks like they were able to get out and posted. And some of them, it looks like they were able to correct for. And so a lot of people are going back and forth saying, hey, this technique worked with this one. It didn't work with this one. And so it looks like there's a ground effort right now. But what is this indicative of? Well, it's indicative of the fact of a lot of things. For one, if we go back to the way that they were supposed to set this up on a website, is Asmongold doing it? That's pretty awesome. I was planning on maybe even attempting to do that tomorrow if nobody had done it yet, but that's cool. I'll see if I can catch what Asmongold has been doing. But if you even zoom out like before on the first day, the website portal that they built, which was a part of what was in the law to make it very easily accessible and searchable, it wasn't. I mean, the website portal, the search engine aspect of it was down. It didn't work. And like very quickly, people had clones put up and it had been posted. Now with this, what you're getting is some of this stuff had been released and then an hour or 2 hours later, it's being pulled. If we go down to claim number 3, we're going to skip number 2 for right now. Claim number 3 is actually in a newly released document that a letter was written from Epstein that he wrote to Larry Nassar, who Larry Nassar is a convicted sex offender. I believe he was at Michigan State, where he had assaulted multiple gymnasts for a period of years. And what he wrote to Larry Nassar in this alleged letter was that Donald Trump was shared their love of young nubile girls, which I think is how you pronounce that. Now, CNN's also reporting that this letter was written just days before Epstein had died. But what did the Department of Justice say about it? Well, the Department of Justice issues, the moment that it starts going viral on X, the Department of Justice issues, no joke, a thing about, here's three reasons why we haven't verified this thing that we just released. Here's three reasons why we think it's not true. And it was something about, like, you know, the stamp address didn't match the right state. Something was off about the dates. And then 2 hours later, they post, same account from the Department of Justice, they post, we have solved it. We now have definitely proven it's not real. So what was anybody doing for the last, like, I don't know, 9 fucking months? You had how long? We literally paid over almost $1 million in overtime in March for you guys to redact these files, and you're not, like, looking at them. You're not verifying what's in here. You're just like, you just see Trump and you put a black spot and say F it and post it. Like, what is happening? There's no way the Department of Justice is this impotent. Like, because this is what it makes almost no sense. Like, and now I'm kind of sitting here thinking, like, did they seriously think they would get this far without just publishing it all? So they're just leaving them untouched. And so to that end, Andres, I'm completely flabbergasted. And so for me, I find that to be indicative of a sign of, like, something is very seriously, deeply wrong. Now, obviously, it is being run by an Indian, and cash probably plays a definite role into that. But if the idea here is, like, they're running an active cover-up, how are these things still being released? Now, what I would say to that is perhaps there are still some good people in the government somewhere who are purposely, like, doing something like this, knowing what it's going to look like the moment they hit published, that I would leave that element open, perhaps. But if not, for one, it's just an extreme level of, like, you're just being very unserious about it. But two, this shows, like, zero conviction or willpower to actually give the people what they want, which goes completely against the most transparent administration ever. I mean, and so to go back to what Orthodox, Boomer Grandma had said, this is what we mean by cooked. I mean, so just in the initial way that they violated the federal law, I mean, this opens up Pam Bondi, Todd Blanche, and Donald Trump, if he doesn't hold the DOJ compliant, to be impeached. Now where we are with one of these other claims that's coming out with another document that's being pushed by Adam Cochran is that Kash Patel lied under oath. And specifically lying under oath about the claim that there was like no verifiable evidence that there's been any kind of child trafficking. And one of the documents then literally highlights there's 10 co-conspirators and talks about when they were subpoenaed and what locations and what states they're in. So, it's not to say, like, we're going to get the Epstein files, or like at this point, we don't need them. At this point, we just are going to go, remember how everyone behaved? Remember how you were fused to such an extreme degree? You were so impotent that instead of getting the Epstein files or any ounce of transparency, you literally obliterated all credibility of this entire system, wrote it all the way down to the ground. That we're at the point now where people in this country probably just could give a shit less what's happening. But I would say, though, the whole copy-paste thing is like, that's extreme incompetence, or it is a sign that there's somebody there. Like, somebody's on the inside. Somebody close up to a managerial position got handed the documents from the guy and was like, oh, let me show you this. So perhaps. I don't really buy it, though. The way I'm looking at it, incompetence seems to be a stronger, more believable theory. Now, moving on to the second claim, though, I'll get the camera off my face to actually show you something. Or both, even. I think that's, both. So the second claim, and we'll put it up here with this, is Trump the leading report, forgive me, is that Trump allegedly flew on Epstein's private jet at least 8 times. And in this document, it talks about how he was with Ghislaine, I believe once or twice. He was literally with his own son, Eric Trump, once. And there was somebody else in there too. But this is what we have here. So this one is, of all of the ones, of everything that we'll talk about, this to me, I think, is the most substantive. And so and according to what I've seen by it, it was written by an assistant U.S. attorney back in 2020. And so I'll just go ahead and read it for you. And it's separated into these different sections here. For your situational awareness, I wanted to let you know that the flight records we received yesterday reflect that Donald Trump traveled on Epstein's private jet many more times than previously has been reported, or that we were aware, including during the period we would expect to charge in a Maxwell case. In particular, he is listed as a passenger on at least 8 flights between 1993 and 1996, including at least 4 flights on which Maxwell was also present. He is listed as having traveled with, among others, and at various times, Marla Maples, his daughter Tiffany, and his son Eric. On one flight in 1993, he and Epstein are the only 2 listed passengers. On another, the only 3 passengers are Epstein, Trump, and then 20-year-old woman redacted. On 2 other flights, 2 of the passengers, respectively, were women who would be possible witnesses in a Maxwell case. We've just finished reviewing the full records, more than 100 pages of a very small script, and didn't want any of this to be a surprise down the road. So where was this document the entire time that Trump wasn't on the list? Very curious. Also curious, and this was in 2020, you would also think, I guess also maybe January 8th. This seems to be very, very early on in the Biden era. Also curious why that was not mentioned or why they didn't drive the nail there. But that also goes back to the main argument and what I would agree with Trevor Wool on, which is this whole thing of like the Democrats have it, the Republicans have it. Why wouldn't they release it? It doesn't make any sense. Well, it does when you go, it's not just one party's on the Epstein list. Do we seriously think it's just only Democrats on the list and it's just only Republicans are on the list? Or do we think it's really a strong, strong majority of both sides? That's probably what it is. So nobody's going to want to say, hey, you're on the list and wait 3 months down the road and to be given the 180 Uno reverse. And it's like, oh, and so are you. This one argument I felt like was always kind of, what's the word? Not looked at. It was always kind of, assumed. It was like, well, if there was something there, people would push it out. Like, I don't think it's that simple. I don't think you can make an issue this complex, this deep, this foreign reaching, and it's been going on for this long. I don't think you can just give it such a simple sign off like that. And so there's the Larry Nassar letter. That's the 3rd claim. The 4th one is curious because it actually goes away from Trump. The 4th claim is that Epstein was afraid to return to his cell due to waking up with strangulation around his neck, or strangulation marks around his neck. And this is what we have here. And so this is a photo of Epstein. Thankfully, they have cropped it, because if you've seen the fuller image, there's a toddler on the left-hand side. But what he writes is, new Epstein files reveal he was afraid to return to the cell he was found due to waking up with strangulation marks around his neck he couldn't explain. And so you'll see this put up on screen here. This is him during his psychological evaluation. So also notice, before we even look at the main part, if you read here at the bottom, he agreed to immediately tell staff and inmate companions if he starts to have suicidal or self-harm thoughts. He was future-oriented. He does not appear to be in an immediate danger to self. He denied thoughts of hurting others, and he agreed to tell staff and inmate companions if he has these thoughts. Also in here, it talks about how he was complaining that he's not even getting enough bathroom breaks. That doesn't sound like somebody who's contemplating their life. I don't think you'd be worried about going to the bathroom if you're going to end yourself. And also, if you'll see up here at the very top, he went to do a legal visit and was talking about businesses and investing to another inmate. Again, marking the future orientation. Now, what you'll see here in this middle section, it says, when interviewed, Jeffrey Epstein stated he still cannot remember what happened in the SHU that caused the marks on his neck. He stated for the 5 days before that he had only slept about 30 minutes each night. Thank you very much for the super chat. I appreciate it. He'd only slept about 39 minutes each night because of noise in the SHU. He stated he is anxious about going back to SHU because he stated he is going back to a place where he had gotten marks on his neck and he does not know why it happened. So that, again, this one to me is a very substantive one. This one's kind of separate from Trump. This is just actually more information about the actual happening of what occurred that day. Now, this is another element that Kash Patel has now lied about. And thank you very much for Mainstream Dissident. Very much. Go follow him if you guys have not followed him. He does great content. This has just got here. Thanks for covering this, Atlas. I appreciate that, man. And of course. But this is another thing that Kash Patel has now lied about. Kash Patel lied entirely about, once again, what did he say? What was the line that he had said? Well, Dana Bongino said that there's no there. But I believe it's Kash Patel. I don't know if he was under oath at this point in time, but he said multiple times, there's no evidence, right? There's no evidence that there of anything besides the fact that Epstein killed himself. This is like some of the most immediate, like, what the, being walked back. It's very cooked. It's extremely cooked. Now, I have seen reports that I've not been able to get a chance to look at yet that says that there's even more, that it points even more towards his old cellmate, which was the old cop. And I don't know if you guys are familiar with the photos of the old cop. I mean, this guy is like an absolute monster. He's like jacked, this old, Russian looking dude. And I believe he was even in there because he had brutally assaulted somebody on the job or something to that effect. So it's like the guy was clearly capable of violence, but kind of curious that he wasn't successful at the same time. But again, I think that the thing there too is the point about the dehydration. I don't think that someone who's contemplating, harming themselves is going to, be concerned about how many bathroom breaks they're getting, or like making complaints about you're mad that your water intake is thrown off because you can't properly like get to the bathroom at the right times you would like to. And what you'll notice on this as well too, I'll bring it back on the screen. You can see at the bottom left-hand side underneath the date of birth is the date of July 27th, 2019. And the reason why I find that a little bit to be notable is because it's exactly 2 weeks before Jeffrey Epstein was found dead. Jeffrey Epstein was found dead on August 10th. So, curious. So maybe they even backed off a little bit to let that story die down so they could bury it a little bit and then went back to do it right after. Who knows? So, but going back to the actual, my document here, making sure I'm going down all of this here, is going to claim number 5. And claim number 5 was actually brought to us not from the actual release of the files, but claim number 5 came about because of, I believe, the Krasensteins and a few other people. I know. But a few other people who are actively copying and pasting the files in here. And, depending on, if they're using Adobe Acrobat, putting them to Microsoft Word. But this is from Maine. Don't know who this guy is. But he writes, unredacted files show bribery in payoffs to silence victims and witnesses. The Department of Justice used Adobe to redact some files that can be undone by copying and pasting and searching. And what you'll see here is this is kind of a bank script. Takes us no more of the actual technical jargon of this, but what you'll see is they're mass searching multiple documents all at once. And so you'll see a lot of these are being pulled from document 14504, some are being pulled from 17337, and then so on and so forth. And what you will find are all of these mentions of Trump that previously did not show up. And that was also cooked, right? Exactly, cooked. Now, what you'll see with this is, right here down this, I'll read this one where my mouse is at. Trump worked with these organizations and political organizers made when the Trump administration agreed in early 2020 to withdraw American forces from it. And so you'll just see these are all kind of little snippets, none of them to be like in full. And so again, give it a bit more time as this stuff kind of comes out and goes through. But again, obviously it's pointing to Trump being heavily involved. It was a news to me that Trump had ever been on the plane and was all in the flight logs. That to me is, if that is true, which it's looking like it is, then we have been, and I know you guys are going to know this, but the degree of which we have been getting lied to by the so-called like mainstream conservatives, or like what I consider just the gatekeeps, is on another even more nefarious and evil level than what I had thought previously. And this is, House of Cards has fallen fast for people like Jack Posobiec. This is a guy who straight up lied about seeing supposed video footage that nobody's seen of the Charlie Kirk assassination. So this is just, obviously I think a lot of people are disgusted, but the depravity, man. And, and one thing I'll highlight too, is a bit of a sidebar on this, but, similar things as well. All the time you get this, there's no way that there's that many people in on it. There's no way that there's something like this. There's no way. And yet we got the news like a couple months ago that there was 274 plainclothes agents that were aggravating at January 6th. So you mean to tell me that 274 American agents, men, got up to work that day knowing that they were going to provoke an incident, a politically incendiary incident, and not a single one of those guys said a word until we finally got the news years later. And you want me to believe that something even greater than that, on a much more insane scale, people would not be intimidated or fear for their lives or be paid off to not talk about it. It's not true about the J6 Fed thing. Do I need to pull it up for you, my son? Do we have a Trump plan truster in here somehow? I think it was initially reported over 250, but 274 is the exact. Let me pull this up here for you real quick. 274, maybe it's 247. Maybe I mix up the numbers. Federal agents, January 6th. Roll the tape. We have to roll the tape. You mean to pull up a former Fed? You mean to pull up Kyle Seraphin, a former federal agent who's been in nonstop arguments with James O'Keefe because they both want to be seen as the golden federal boy? Is there anyone else you want to link me to? Should I go listen to Ben Shapiro's take on it as well? I'm not trying to be rude at all, but like, come on, man. This is from Yahoo. Oh, sorry about that. Clicked on the wrong thing. Fact checked. Many of 274 FBI agents noted in an internal report were referring to January 6th Capitol riot. Report says they were not undercover or embedded in a crowd. Okay, so maybe I was incorrect. But I would have to see what he said there. FBI had 275. That's from Blaze Media. This one had 274 embedded in. Okay, maybe we'll split it down. We'll cut it down. Only 100 and... Dude, I'm not paying for stupid Blaze Media. We'll cut it down. We'll be fair. Okay. I'll walk it back then. Maybe the number is less than that. Maybe it's only 100 federal agents who did it and being provocative. The point being is at one point I had believed that there's like no way you would get that many guys. There's no way that there's that many grown men who get to 30, 40 years old, 50 years old, who like defend and have lived in this country, who would do something to that level, like that nefarious, that evil, like, and knowingly knowing what they're a part of, and then also withhold it on the back end, knowing what came after that. So 200, 100, 50, 20. It's still 20 American men who are obliterating the credibility and overall the entire system. And then you take that to these other levels too, with the blackmail operations with Jeffrey Epstein too. It's like, maybe there are some assumptions that I've had about the way that the world works that I actually maybe need to rethink upon, because I myself personally, used to buy into that, which was like, there's no way a conspiracy could be that far-reaching, that wide, like that big, and nobody does the right thing, right? Like nobody says like nobody just comes out and is a whistleblower and it's like, my conscience convicted me, I can't go along with this. I don't know. Perhaps. But it's incredulous to me. And, and so this is what the video was that it started going viral, about these redactions. It's literally a woman just showing you, she's just copying, pasting from her Chrome browser, it looks like. So I think they have an internet tool too, for Adobe Acrobat. And that was that was one of the first claims. And you can see it. Indike was the name that was redacted in there. And there's a couple other ones. House even linked me a 2-minute video that's going crazy on YouTube of a guy just literally showing you how to do it, which is pretty cool. But there is something of note there, which is one of the redacted portions here. You can see it. I'll make it a bit bigger so you guys can see the video. It's in the second line here. Indike signed foundation account checks for over $400,000 made payable to young female models and actresses, which, if we're looking at what the guidelines were with what the bill was pushed by Thomas Massie and Ro Khanna, that wouldn't fall under the typical, that wouldn't fall under the typical tenet of what they had pushed for what was allowed to be redacted in the material, because it was not explicitly of CASM. So the calls for impeachment are going to be getting incredibly loud, and especially as we come to midterms too, it's going to be an ultimately a horrible mashup of the Democrats both pushing for the Republicans to be unseated out of power while also pushing for impeachments over the people who are in power currently, namely Trump and Bondi. I don't know so much about Kash Patel. Possibly, I would imagine he'll come down the line, but namely Bondi and Trump, I would expect, Todd Blanchard included. He's just kind of attached to Pam Bondi. And then you have Vivek at the door, in Ohio being pushed by all of the Zionists and gatekeep conservatives as well. There's a guy who goes by the name of like Wade Barton or Bertrand or something like that, who's getting absolutely obliterated. I saw that Zeb Boykin had responded to him earlier today. And because he's like directly like, it's like, you know, I'm not going to support you, Casey, unless you come have a personal sit down with me. And I'm not going to support you because you don't have enough federal funding. You don't have enough endorsements. You're going to lose to Vivek. Dude, he got ratioed by a comment I didn't even try on. And that's how basically all the comments are going. He's getting absolutely annihilated in the comments. And it was just kind of the point of like, who the hell are you? Guy has like 100-some thousand followers on X, you know, and I keep shaking my table, apologies. And I did some digging, you know, so I did the basics, you know, I click on the guy's profile, I search, and I guess I can just show you on stream, it's going to be too hard to do. Let me go find him actually, let me refresh this. But it's everything that you would expect to see. You see, it's all probably where my notifications are coming from. Where is it? So this was the initial tweet here. He says, "Hi, Casey. I was told by a friend you were running in Ohio and took a look at your platform just to see if you were even remotely viable. You aren't. You'll lose, and even if you think you're doing the right thing here, I don't have time for people that will lose." I should probably do an early life check. I didn't. That's one of the things I didn't do. It says, "You have no endorsements, no funding, no real backers, and nothing but internet sentiment on hot button issues like H-1B visas. Even if you have an argument against Vivek, you do not have a serious enough platform to win a campaign against the Democrat machine." That's what we're going up against. That's the problem. You may be winning the internet crowd for popularity, but you haven't even touched the political world yet. Go ahead and cry about Loomer attacking you. If you step into the primary and think she's going to be your only problem, you have no idea what you're doing. I live in Springfield. If you'd like to talk in person, I'll happily explain to you why I know you'll lose. Like, you guys remember like when I'm talking about like how men talk like women online? Like, yeah, like this is like, I can't stand this. Like when I read stuff like this, it immediately like the base instinct, like I become black for a second, dude. Like all I can say, I got to hit something, dude. Because it's just like, what is this, dude? And who supports this? Who are the 96, twinks who clicked like on this and was like, yeah, you got him, Walt. Lord have mercy. So this is what I saw. This is what I saw from Zeb. Who the fuck is that guy? From Conor McGregor. I can remember his name. The political operative that lives in Ohio. You can play pretend in South Carolina if you want. Doesn't mean he even has a remote chance in Ohio. And so, like, somebody said, never delete this. Chief engineer, I don't know who that is. This is from Casey. He responded. He says, Walt, this campaign launched from nothing on Tuesday. Our first policy drop is coming after Christmas. This dismissive attitude of your own people is exactly how you ended up with Vivek in the first place. And, there's mine. Like, she doesn't know shit. I ratioed him the hardest, dude. He ain't got a single like yet. But the point kind of stands, man. I've been in Ohio my entire life. I have been covering politics for the better part of 2 years now. Who the hell is Walter Kurt? And how does somebody who speaks like this manage, and again, for everyone to see at home, how does a man like this manage 106,000 followers? Hey, appreciate that, Misanthropic. Love the channel room. Merry Christmas from Australia. Hey, good luck over there. See, you guys are struggling from one white man's country to the other. I hope you guys make it out too. But I'm just sitting here and I'm like, and so then I did some digging because I was like, did he get handed an account? And I did. So this is one of the first things I did. Okay, let's try this. Epstein. Okay. And And if you go by latest, okay, December 5th, he hasn't said one thing since December 5th. That's the latest. And so I highlighted another tweet, which is like, he's like, the Democrats are going to ignore the latest release, like, aren't they? Democrats aren't going to, right here, do you see this? Let me zoom in on this guy, dude. Because, like, man, dude, dude, I would say some words to Walter Kirk if we were in person. This is December 5th, the last thing that he said about Epstein. Remember, I'm sorting it by latest. Second to last thing he said on it. But the Democrats have already moved on to Trump as a war criminal. Will they completely ignore the release? My brother in Christ, it is about to be Christmas. It is December 23rd. He has made literally zero mention, no post, no nothing about any of the recent information that's come out. Curious, right? But let's do another one. Let's do another one that the audience will appreciate. Let's do Israel. One from November 12th of this year. And that's what I was noticing too. So then I thought back to Epstein and I was like, well, surely he's got to have been talked about Epstein for much longer than just this last year. And it stopped before I was expecting it to. What's that again? November 12th. Wait a minute, wasn't that the last date from the Israel comment too, right? So I'm like, wait a minute. November 12th. And so here's what I would say to this, as someone who tries not to get into the investigative stuff and make claims, because like, Lord knows I don't want to be sued for defamation. And dude, these accentuate my Jew nose so much. Just kidding, I'm an Aryan. He's either mass batch deleting tweets because he's that much of a politico and doesn't want anything to ever come up, or what may also be is he bought an account that already had a bunch of followers on it, so he could push these dog shit ideas with the ethos that a lot of people follow him, because no one is liking his tweets. Now, granted, he has a couple that are viral. One that took aim at Jimmy Raskin, but all of them are within like the last couple of months. There's like nothing that exists on this guy's account prior to the last 3-4 months ago. Don't really find a person like that to be trustworthy. You know what I mean? Like you can find chubby photos of me back in like Lord knows how long ago. My basketball photos from like 7th grade. Looks like I just finished, 1v1ing the Cookie Monster for number one fattest eater. I'm not gonna delete that stuff. It's part of who I am. I'm sure I have very, very, very cringe takes like against like people like the Quartering from like 4 or 5 years ago when I'm, calling him a fat ass or whatnot. I don't find it to be trustworthy. I mean, he's probably using some kind of political tool, but that's who came out and wanted to let you know he's here as an Ohioan and he's concerned about the Democrat takeover. Atlas, that's funny. Dude, no, don't clip that, dude, please. The Fuka Nakua one's pretty good. Who is this? Who is this person coming out against Casey, threatening him as if like Casey's the one who needs to go sit down with this dude? Genie Bali, I'm never getting it back. It's hard to laugh and like be serious at the same time. But the point being is this dude's a complete fraud. I don't know who the fuck Walter Kirk is, but dude, you have no sway here. You have no influence here. And if you continue to attack Casey, I will make it a point to attack you every single day. I will turn my notifications for you on every single day. I will be in your replies. I will be responding to you. I'll be on video. Hell, we can debate if you want. And here's the thing, Walter. I listened to you talk for a little bit. Good luck. Good luck, my brother. So anyways, challenge issued. Walter Kirk, if you want to come on the stream, or I can go onto your stream. We can sit down. We can have a debate. We can talk about literally anything, whatever you want. And we can see who's a Wang half and who's an establishment Zio sucking show. I'm so tired of these people. I'll take on debates, dude. What's his name? Garcia, Robert Garcia, whatever that guy is who reads the ChatGPT AI scripts. I'll take you on. I'll debate you. Let's do it. Like let's get it on. I don't want to sit here and be like I'm banging my chest like debate me, but it stands. anybody who wants to debate me in this space who is a conservative, I mean, even if you're a leftist, I'll debate you. But like if you're a weirdo, gatekeeping conservative who can't for 1 second remove your tongue from the taint that is Israel, we can debate anytime, any place, because these discussions have to be had. And maybe they won't do it, seeing how Kai Schwimmer absolutely annihilated Steve Deese and Michael Knowles the other day. Shout out to Kai Schwimmer for doing that too. He's another stand-up guy, and he's doing a lot of good stuff. So push it for him too. And moving down beyond all the Epstein claims, wanted to make sure I highlighted this one too before we move away from it. And again, I know we're covering this for the better part of an hour, but it is pretty explosive. Forgive me. This is from Adam Cochran. He's kind of a leftoid. I don't really pay attention to him too much. He's probably Jewish beyond that as well. So with that all being said, here's what he's putting forward, and I agree with him. With this morning's release, it is clear that FBI Director Kash Patel committed perjury before the House. He claimed there was no evidence Epstein trafficked minors to others. The FBI's own emails point to at least 10 co-conspirators, including 6 who they had served in the first Epstein case in 2019. And says what you have here. Now this is actually being covered by CoffeeZilla, who has been known for making basically a career out of doing a lot of YouTube investigations. CoffeeZilla has about an 11-minute video you can find where he's like screaming at the top of his lungs that Kash Patel committed perjury. But here it is, and I'll just read it for you real quick. Of the 10 co-conspirators, 3 have been located in Florida, and they've served subpoenas, grand jury subpoenas. 1 was in Boston, 1 in New York City, and 1 in Connecticut were located and served. 4 of the 10 are outstanding, with attempts having been made. 1 is a wealthy businessman in Ohio, Wexner. A lead is being sent to CV. The remaining 3 are currently out of pocket. And so this is what most people are now going to be placing the ire of Kash Patel upon, which is it's been played Lord knows how many times now from Kash Patel, and all these different clips that you see floating around related to the Epstein stuff. He did say under oath that there is, again, no evidence that Epstein trafficked minors to others. All of this is concerning because it is acceleration. I think some of you guys are making those comments earlier when I started covering this at the top of the hour, and it is. It's accelerating in like all of the worst ways because it's not political at all. It literally just drives just general, like what I mean all the time when I'm bringing up, when you could bring it up to a random black dude in Brooklyn, he knows who Epstein is. It's just a general base level of extreme distrust for the people who are supposed to be the authorities in the country. Not because they think it's Israel doing it or whatever. It's just like they know, just based on the nature of the way people have covered it, talked about it, the back and the forth, the redacted, the not redacted, the Pam Bondi, the files are on my desk, Kash Patel, like there's no, like all of it. And I think that honestly, like at the lowest level, it just makes it that much easier for a person who's going to commit a crime to go, what's it matter anyways? These people have no, like, your power. Oh, what's the line from the Lord of the Rings? You have no power here. I mean, that is the breakdown of society. Is like, so they look at a cop, then shows up and he goes, listen, dude, like our nation's a bunch of pedos. Like you can swing that badge around all you want. Like I will fight you. And that's when you get like real revolution, is when like the militia and the police forces are being challenged by people because they've lost their credibility. They've lost their actual acknowledgement of being the actual power in the place, or of the nation, of the of the system. And that's not a directed sense of just collapse. That's like a just everyone for themselves kind of collapse, which is a bit more, you don't have to black pill it all. But I do think that the more this continues on, the more that kind of simmers in the back of everybody's head, which is, what's it matter anyways? They're a bunch of evil Satanists anyways. Do I really care about these people? No. And that makes it that much easier for the back of the person's head to go, well, is it really a crime? And they'll kind of make these justifications, and ultimately, partly because what's driving it too is the economic level of it as well. And when you're suffering economically and you look at the people who are making off, not even being going to prison, the fact that a lot of people who probably even just gotten speed tickets or minor crimes have spent more time in jail than anybody who's assaulted, children or involved in the Epstein list. It's like that matrix can't be understated as what is probably being like the largest pusher of the just general discontent in the country, the just general animosity the just general lack of a willingness to push for something deep, because most people tell themselves at the end of the day, like, what's the point? You know, it'll probably be attacked for this, or it'll be taxed on this, or, you know, insert X, Y, and Z. And, you know, it is really blackmailing. I don't want it to be, but here we are. And just to round everything off, you know, what I had mentioned earlier about the DOJ going back and forth over the Larry Nassar letter, I'll put it back up on screen here. This is what they put out shortly after it starts going viral. We're currently looking into the validity of this alleged letter from Epstein to Larry Nassar, and we will follow up as soon as possible. In the meantime, pay attention to these 3 facts that stand out to us, because we just looked at it an hour ago. Like, get the F out of here. And so, like, I have this here. Look at these comments. They're hitting the nail on the head. The best time to review something is definitely after you've produced it. The Jay Aubrey says, you're the effing Department of Justice. Why did you not investigate any of this before releasing the document? So maybe this was just a full-on belief that the Transparency Act would fail, or they would find some way to stop it, that they wouldn't get support. Or is this part of the reason why they're calling up Nancy Mace, Lauren Boebert, Marjorie Taylor Greene? Vote no on the Epstein Transparency Act. You know, and my heart probably does, I will say, definitely goes out to all of the older individuals who got the wool pulled over their eyes, all of the older boomers who were showing up, all of the kind of, you know, the bumbling, you know, 60, 70-year-olds who, you know, the boomers, granted, but they believed in Trump because they thought he was going to, you know, destroy the swamp. And now they're swiftly approaching their deathbeds, knowing that Donald Trump was the biggest scam of all time on Americans in general. That's sad. But the fight continues. And so maybe this is exactly where we're going to go. We're not ever going to know the truth behind the Epstein files, but everyone's going to know that there was something behind him. So is it going to be violence? Do we just have a long, cold civil conflict where that nobody trusts anybody and it's just like a very, very dark period to just be a part of? Who knows? But it's definitely the last thing that you would want if you were trying to rebuild or reform your nation, is at the bottom of it, you have no one trusting anybody. And so, you know, and to finish it off here, this is from Ari Ben Menashe. He's an Israeli intelligence officer. This, I believe, was circulating yesterday. It is a video. We will react to it. And he's having a conversation with, I can't remember who. And he just lets it be known. He admits that Netanyahu is blackmailing Donald Trump. And he does connect it to Jeffrey Epstein. And so understand that Ari Ben Menashe was an intelligence officer for 10 years. I believe it was from like 1977 to 1987. And so we'll just take a listen to him. Listen to what the former official from Israel says about it. And I'm surely this is anti-Semitic. Surely. But here it is. And let me turn this down a little bit, actually. I apologize. I'm going to blow my own eardrums out here. Oh, we have, dude, there's a Mossad agent in here. Get out. Let me go back a little bit. But here it is. And we don't have to watch the whole thing, but he rips into it right off the rip.
I believe that the American government is sort of trapped by the Israelis. Jeffrey Epstein is one of their tools to trap them.
And what do you think of Dershowitz's denial?
Hold on a second. I want to give you an example. Bill Clinton, President Bill Clinton, Ehud Barak, met Arafat in the 90s, and there was no deal. The reason was Epstein. They were being blackmailed by Epstein. Ehud Barak was also a friend of Epstein, the prime minister of Israel at the time. But he was being blackmailed by the Israeli right wing as well. And they stopped an agreement with Arafat. They were about to reach an agreement there for a two-state solution. But that was stopped because of Epstein. They were both being blackmailed by Epstein.
And so Jeffrey Epstein, in a way, presumably being used as a tool by the Israelis, helped to change the course of history. In this region I'm speaking to you from.
Of course, a change thing. And they trapped a number of U.S. presidents by using Jeffrey Epstein.
And there you have it. And the reason why I just wanted to show you that is because this is not where it stops. The Epstein files do not stop by any degree at all with just these nefarious, evil things. Now, granted, is it just Israel that was facilitating stuff like this? Is there an element of the Freemasons? Is there an element of the Illuminati? Is there an element of, so on and so forth, other factions? I would imagine, other occult. And, for as long as people have believed in God and Jesus Christ, people have also believed in Satan and other false gods too. So understand that things can persist, especially if there are convictions, especially if people are committed to the bit too. But the point here is this is why we're not getting the information. And the reason why we would never be allowed to have a full-blown transparency is because it would be the single thing that would ignite the second revolution. It would ignite the American Revolution 2.0. And that would obviously result in a lot of people no longer being in power. It would result in a lot of people, not being in jail, but also not being with us anymore. It would result in a lot of things that would ultimately, unfortunately, spell out, the end, right? This is why you get, national security concerns from Mike Johnson, and even in the most minor sense, if you will. Even if it wasn't in terms of the, Israeli political involvement, and that wasn't what was, seen, what you would still get would be, depending on how far widespread it is, if you are threatening to topple and jail, say, I don't know, 50 of the top CEOs in the whole United States of America, I mean, that is a very tumultuous thing to do for a lot of huge, economic assets in America. And so there's also been that element, which is what people were saying why Dan Bongino didn't do it early on, which is would you do it if it meant you collapse a nation economically? And it's to me, it's again, there can be no cost to truth but death. Your life has to be the cost of truth, because otherwise you can be paid off at any point. And I think that is one of the greatest quotes of all time. If your cost to finding out the truth is anything less than your own life, you will and eventually will be bought. Simple as. Which is why the conviction element matters. But again, overall, these are all things that have been touched on, talked about, 6 ways from Sunday. This, I had a debate not too long ago, and I do, that LOL Marble saying it as well too. Right? How many times we need to say these things out loud? What is ultimately the next step? And perhaps it's driving more debates down. I think they'll just continue trying to do the same tactics. So what is the solution here? What is and I think it was pretty simple, become ammonia. Probably saying it wrong. We have to have a very strong, turning back to Christianity, a very strong turning back to Jesus Christ, a very strong turning back to our one true God. And in doing away with all of this, men have to stand up and say, listen, I'm sorry. I want my nation to be Christian. Here's the line, honestly. And it can be broken down from Nick Fuentes' viral clip. It could be 3 things. Here's our party line, and we won't move from these positions. Jews need to stop being overrepresented in positions of power. We need to stop and remove all of the identity protection mechanisms that exist around them and have open conversations. And secondarily to that, all support for Israel, gone, obliterated. We will never support them ever again. We have nothing to do with those people, and we reject it entirely. Second, women need to shut the fuck up. And that might be the harder line to actually carry for most people. But it is true, and I don't mean it to be rude. I don't. I seriously don't mean this to be rude. But you guys are kidding yourselves if you look around and you're saying that the men's men of today would match up in any way to the men's men of 100 and 200 years ago. The average man in this country gets dog-walked by his wife, and it is because he has a very sad and pathetic relationship to the sexual access he gets from her. Now, granted, I would not say that's all on men entirely, not at all. But it has to be the line. No more Ally Beth Stuckeys, no more Marjorie Taylor Greens, no more Laura Loomers, none. We can't have them. Women they were not made by God to be positions of power, and in fact, those who push for them to be in positions of power are pushing for the inversion of God's natural order, and in fact, hate women. That would be what I would argue. And it has to be driven through to the point. Women, Clutching your pearls because a guy told you to shut up? That's crazy. Don't give a shit. Shut up and get out of the way. You are destroying this country. You are ruining this country. And if you actually cared, and if you were to have a son or to have sons, or you have men in your life and you cared about them, you would step away too. You would look at the Bible and understand that your role is not to be the leader. It is not to be the decision maker. It is not to be the defender of the family, the protectorate. It is your job to make the home. It is your job actually to submit to your husband. It is your job to be in submission, to be gentle, to be quiet, to be kind. None of those things are fit for someone who should be a judge over violent offenders. None of those things are fit for a president who needs to bomb countries. But the fact that we've allowed this lie to continue to the point that it is, where were the men? This the only answer I can give up is where were the men? What happened when I wasn't born? What occurred between now and then? How did you continually allow over and over and over for them to gain ground, to become, and again, I'll say this for the 10 millionth time, you have allowed it. They have come at the gate. Women now completely and fully that the only thing that separates them from men is literally a penis, and that they can in all other ways, in essence, be men. How did we get here? Did we get here because the churches were doing a really good job preaching the gospel? That can't be true because Christianity is literally being obliterated. Evangelical Protestantism bleeding support. Now, I'm a Protestant. I grew up Protestant and I'm leaning Orthodoxy for a lot of the same reasons. So the answer is from TPUSA and Erika Kirk and all these other people to get more women to tell men like how they should construct their lives. Obviously not. The writing's been on the wall for years. It's just that so many men who have the ability to say something simply refuse to. And the answer to the reason why is just astonishingly pathetic. And it is because they themselves have constructed a life in which they themselves are not even the what would you call it? The domineering of the home. They are not the patriarch of their home. They in fact share 50-50 rules with their wife. Their wife shares co-equal power. Their wife actually, in a better sense, they are the queen of their marriage. It's worse than cooked. It's setting awful examples for young men. And that's probably the thing that drives me the most insane. It's obviously family court too. I talk about that pretty often. But just the fact that we lie to men, not men, young boys, over and over and over. We handhold them into indoctrination of how women are. It's a sick and disgusting thing, and it needs to stop. If you truly care about the well-being of men, you will stand against this fifth wave idea of what feminism is, the fourth wave, the third wave, all of the waves. You will stand against it and say, we actually need to restore God's order. And that is women taking a back seat to what the men decide what is going on. God created man in his own image. God created woman for man. And I think it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate because I continually sit here after spending a long amount of time just sifting through it, figuring out what would be the best answer, what would be the best solution. And I still am just like, I don't know. So I will do what I do best. As a former personal trainer, I think shame is the best mechanism that men respond to. And so I think it must be met with extreme humiliation. And I talk about with Josh all the time, like, I want to find a way I could set up, here's how I did it, right? Here's how I did it. Here's how I walked my wife out of being a liberal feminist. Here's how I did it. Maybe that won't work for everybody, but we need more of those answers. We truly do. Because it drives a lot. But enough of that. We'll go ahead and we'll drive the nail more through here with Erika Kirk and Nicki Minaj. Because, and I think this post from Joker actually knocks it out of the park here. We'll stay on this through line here. Turning Point USA is dead. It went from Charlie Kirk dropping red pills on stage to Erika Kirk and Nicki Minaj telling young men what it means to be a man. What a joke. What a joke. And what this was, you have Nicki Minaj coming on. Now, granted, I didn't spend too much time watching it because I can't stand listening to anything like that, let alone even if it was just TPUSA, but add on the fact that it's just a bunch of women talking. I'm like, I'm not going to click on that. Like, come on, I'm not even going to kid with you guys. I refuse it. I can't stand hearing it. Like, I'm not, it's in a joke. It's not a bit. It's like, it is like it's chalkboard and, fingers running down. It's like, just make it stop. Just make it stop. I would rather listen to a homeless guy ramble on about how he wants to wash my car windows. I kid you not. And I don't care how offended you are. I literally can't do it. But here's what we have. And I'm going to let Charlie Kirk speak for himself, because Charlie Kirk did make remarks about Nicki Minaj specifically. I think these are from about a year and a half or 2 years ago. This is what Charlie Kirk had to say about Nicki Minaj. And great video, by the way, from Stu Peters.
Right now, black culture is being held captive by influences, songs,
Which
and
influences?
role models. I mean, Nicki Minaj, Cardi B.
Okay, Nicki Minaj is causing dads to leave the home.
Hold on a second. I don't think that's a good role model for 18-year-old black girls.
This one is for the poison.
I think I might get copyrighted on this sound, but obviously it cuts to, there's Nicki Minaj and Cheaper USA. So yeah. Boss babe stuff, man. Shit on Charlie's legacy. Make it really suck. Like, make it so toxic. Ruin everything that he spent his life doing because you for 2 seconds cannot walk away from the spotlight and just let it be. But there's probably people in her ear. Oh, Charlie would want you to do this. Charlie would want you to do this. And women being agreeable are like, okay, I guess. Have you seen the movie of, not the movie, but the clip of Scared Straight? When the guy comes in, move. I imagine that's like Erika Kirk with all the donors and handlers. Oh, okay, and because I really don't think there's anything honestly nefarious, like truly nefarious with Erika Kirk. I'll be honest about that. Intuition tells me that she's just an idiot who wants to put on a face and is a bad actor, and maybe really didn't like Charlie that much, to be honest with you. But I don't know if it was nefarious by those standards of what most people are claiming it to be. But that point stands from Jake. These people are supposed to be a serious political movement. And this is anything but. This is more WWE fireworks, pyrotechnics. We're wearing short shirts. We're wearing, golden blazers and, spandex, and we're slapping JD Vance on the ass and, flipping off his wife. It's like, well, granted, like, I'd be okay if you did the last part, but like, it's just like, it almost feels intentional. Do you know what I mean? Like, in truth be told, yeah, I mean, like, we should be praying for her children too. Like, I feel the worst for the kids. But is it intentional? It like is this all being done in an effort to ensure that like the political right just gets obliterated? It's starting to feel like that to me, because there's no way, like, there's just no way there are warm bodies in the seat when they're coming to these people for strategy and they're going, this will really sell. This will really sell. We got zero pushback on the fireworks last time we did them at the wake. Let's do it more. And this time, instead of just the front stage, we'll do the whole wide stage this time. I see. Because I don't know. That's the way it comes off to me. It's like, there's no way. Just no way. And one thing I talked about earlier, was this blacklisting thing I didn't see much about with Charlie Kirk, but I'll put it on screen for you guys to see. No, I'm not even going to read that one, Tix. But it's unfortunate because that's the vibe it gets. This is from Uncommon Sense, and so he writes, definitely weird now that Erika is getting primetime media spots to tell us about Israel. Shabbat Shalom. And so this is like, he writes this, the Grok or ChatGPT responds to it. This is the photo that's been going around. He says, did Fox News blacklist Charlie Kirk's events before his death, and when did they do it, if so? So it writes, and it says, yeah, they effectively blacklisted him after Tucker Carlson's firing in April back in 23, including by preventing the network personalities from participating in TPUSA events. This sidelining lasted all the way through 2024 and didn't have any, he only returned for brief appearances in 2025. So I'm not I'm just letting you know I've not seen anything about this, nor have I been privy to that information. It could be true, it could be fake. I do find it to be, I would imagine it's more true than not, because as I'm sitting here trying to recall, Fox News segments, I really can't think of really any time that Charlie Kirk was on a Fox News show. So there is that. And then now Fox News has been all over hands-on. Get it? Hands-on, Erika? Unfortunately, people like Jesse Waters and others. Uncle Hal says Infest was filled with mostly boomers, so it probably... Yeah, that's unfortunate. I wish I didn't. Ah, yeah. Yeah. Woo! Yeah! Boomers, they're like, what was that? I didn't even hear it. Just kidding. That was a low-hanging fruit. Let me get rid of some of these tags here. Before I move on. Well, that's not helpful. And that's blinding. Oh yeah, I meant to say this at the beginning. I entirely forgot about that. A lot of people were asking me I need to stop doing that. A lot of people were asking me to set up a secondary kind of portal because they don't like super chatting into YouTube because they know how much it takes. They just don't want to give their money to YouTube. So I did. I am now set up with Buy Me a Coffee. The link is in, you can find it on my page. I posted it on X. I'll put it in the description of the video too. I think it should be in the video description. So for anybody who they wanted to do that instead of supporting through YouTube, you can now. So you can also find the link on my YouTube and on X as well. And I believe it's just like loosely linked through PayPal. So one of the people know I did do that. And I do appreciate it for whoever had asked recently. It's been like the 10th time I've been asked. I know Dadsky, I don't think I've seen Dadsky in a hot minute. He was asking a bunch, and I think Alec Barton was one of the last ones. I do appreciate you, man. Thank you very much. But I am set up on Buy Me a Coffee. Forgive me. And moving on to the next thing here. Now, I do have a clip from Owen Shroyer and, talking about the active cover-up. But what I would like to actually go to while we're on the same line of events, what I have here is from Matt Gaetz, because Matt Gaetz did sit down with Tucker Carlson. Now, the unfortunate thing is I can't play anything because Tucker Carlson absolutely annihilates people with copyright. So they had to sit down, and I'll break it down for you real quick. I'll keep it on the screen so you know what I'm talking about. So as he tells in this 6-minute clip, and this is something, again, that we have been privy to for a hot minute, and didn't really get much coverage on because there was really nothing ever being pushed too much about it beyond the fact that it revolved around Israel. So as Matt Gaetz tells it, was that the Department of Justice was investigating him on false allegations. That, however, those accusations never became anything but, that he was never charged, there was never any direct accusation, and he was never tried. Not even directly accused of it. And what the story is, the gist of the story, is that they threatened his father. Oh, wow. Thank you. Thank you very much. That was a member chat right here. Is it this one? Bless up all you hard and going. Appreciate it, man. Thank you for becoming a member. Where was I at? Oh, yeah. So as Matt Gaetz is explaining it, the way he explains it is that his dad was being threatened with allegations against his son, meaning Matt himself. So they were trying to extort Matt's father for $25 million to supposedly save some hostage who got lost in Iran. And what they were threatening on the other end of that was somehow some kind of relations that Matt Gaetz had to minors, which we saw a bit of this get pushed out close to when he was running actually for the AG, when we got the Venmo link that literally went nowhere. And so it was reported, and from Matt Gaetz, he's saying this, that it was a consulate official who was working with the Israeli government, who goes by the name Jake Novak. Jake Novak, Matt Gaetz says, is still working with who? Real America Voice, or RAV, which is another news broadcasting network, one of these newer ones that's been brought up. I think it's newer. I really don't see much about it. And to top it all, Matt Gaetz lets it be known that Jake Novak, who at the time was this person who was conveying this to Matt Gaetz's father, was also exchanging messages with Scott Adams, of all people, who, if you don't know who Scott Adams is, and prayers out to him. I really don't know too much about him, but I know he's struggling. He's fighting for his life. It's very, very life-threatening. I don't think he has much longer left to live. But Scott Adams, the guy famously known for Get the Fuck Away from Black People, right? Also famously known for the creator of Dilbert, the political news comic that you would see in a lot of news strips everywhere. So that is just like curious in and of itself. And towards the end of that clip, what you end up getting is Tucker's kind of like, so what happened? So like, where did this guy go? And Matt Gaetz is like, oh, well, Jake, he got a news show. And now he does news. And they're like, so what was the point? And so Gaetz says that he believes the reason they all came about was because when Matt Gaetz resided there in Florida, he was actually in the district, I think at the time, I don't know where it is right now, but was the number one most like military district in all of the districts in all of like the nation. Very prominent district, close to there in Jacksonville, to some of these military bases. I believe it's Jacksonville. And they expected that the guy to come out, being the son of this other guy, to be a neocon. And he wasn't. And as most people know now, Matt Gaetz being one of the strongest anti-interventionist voices that we have on the right wing. And so Matt Gaetz just kind of left it there, which he thinks that was the reason why he was getting pressed for it, was because it was extortion to back him down into being a neocon. But it really didn't go anywhere. And so that's kind of the story there with the Matt Gaetz clip, but I wanted to make sure I did cover that one. The part that blows me away is like the Scott Adams element. Like, where does he come in on this? Why was Jake Novak texting him? What were they texting about, mind you? And I don't really know if Matt Gaetz went into any deeper details on that, because I only saw the clip. I don't know if he goes into deeper detail on the long form show. But, I'm not in the habit of watching Tucker Carlson anymore. And also, while we're at it too, hopefully Nick is feeling better as well too here soon, which is like just sad. Cause he's had the flu and got obliterated. And I was like really hoping he would respond to like the JD Vance eat shit article, which I don't think I've talked about at all, but now that's a new article. Many people turned it into a meme, but an article saying JD Vance JD Vance says anybody who talks shit about his wife can go eat shit, essentially. And most people turned it into a meme, and it was like, no, JD Vance is inviting him to dinner. Get it? Because his wife is Indian and they poop everywhere. That's kind of like the joke there. I was hoping we get a response from Nick. It's looking like there's not going to be no show again today as well. And so with that being said, though, because there is no show today for Nick, or at least it's what it's looking like, definitely do make sure you check out Beardson Beardley and James Fishback having a discussion, because I think this will be a strong test of who James Fishback is and if we'll get any support and where that's going to go. We do have Owen Shroyer had a longer bit he put out today talking about how it's literally a full-blown cover-up. Nobody can deny it. It's an active cover-up. Everybody knows it. I think I talked a little bit about Ted Cruz. Ted Cruz now eyeing this presidency, this 2028 run. At least that's how it's being promoted by AF Post, who they literally lost their verification badge, and I'm not sure why. This account may be getting suppressed. But yes, so what we have is a gay race trader, a fat gay race trader, and an Israel show. So this guy is less of a fat gay race trader, but he still kind of is. And this guy is like kind of less of an Israel show, but he still kind of is. And these are your options. These will be the Republican options. At least like the two of the big name ones. And if you guys didn't see the news, Marco Rubio has already said if JD plans to run, then he's pulling his name out. Marco will support him 100%. So I really don't think Rubio's any amount of threat. And you also have the idea here too that Donald Trump could potentially run for a third term, and being backed, I believe, with Alan Dershowitz, co-signing with Miri Madelson, that will pledge another $250 million to this old man. So long as he can stay here and suck Israel off a little bit longer. We're almost done wipe glassing Gaza. So it appears. And but moving away from some of the more aggressive stuff, I guess, if you will, it would be this: that the defense attorneys for Tyler Robinson made a motion to remove one of the attorneys from the Utah County prosecution from the Tyler Robinson case. So here's this video. I found it from Officer Talmud, of all people, believe it or not. I guess he can post things that don't suck off Israel. And so the thing to note here too is we actually aren't going to know what the result of this until after they both plead their cases. So the defense is going to have to plead their case of why the attorney should be sent home, and the prosecution obviously defend him. But we're not even going to get that until January 16th of next year. But here's this Fox News segment. They're going to cover a little bit of what the ask is here.
Lawyers for the man accused of killing Charlie Kirk are now trying to get a Utah County prosecutor kicked off the case. They claim the unnamed attorney has a conflict of interest over, quote, personal connections to a witness. Senior correspondent Jonathan Siri is live with the developing story. Hi, Jonathan.
Yeah, hi there, Rich. Lawyers for Charlie Kirk's accused killer filed this motion under seal back on December 10. The court in more recent days has issued a version with the names redacted. In the motion, it argues that one of the prosecutors received texts from a relative witnessing the chaos and the immediate aftermath of Kirk's assassination during a September 10 speaking engagement at Utah Valley University. The defense team argues in this case, the personal relationship between the prosecutor, whose name has been redacted, and his relative, a potential witness and victim, raises serious concerns about past and future prosecutorial decision-making in this case. The prosecutor cannot serve two masters and should not be permitted to do so, they argue. Additionally, the defense team says that prosecutors rushed to seek the death penalty against Tyler James Robinson shows strong emotional reactions that may have been augmented by their colleagues' family ties to someone who watched this event unfold. According to the motion, the prosecutor in question, quote, has stated to Mr. Robinson's counsel that his relative will not be a witness for the state.
So there's that, right? So they're kind of already getting the admission there that this one individual that was contacting the attorney beforehand will not be a witness that's going to be brought up for the case. However, I do think ultimately that the defense may win that one. Actually, I think that's they have decent grounds. I think I'm not sure if it'll go to discovery on like what those grounds may be of like what was actually discussed or the content, but I think you would have to almost. Regardless, though, it's kind of wild. Right. And I think this is, again, I think the point here that I really want to string up again is the fact that given what the defense has been doing with the gag orders, now this, the fears, and obviously the strong fears, as it was said by Kash Patel himself, or whatever you want to call it, consider the Fed slop narrative, is the reason why they shut down DNI. Tulsi Gabbard and Joe Kent, a week and a half after he died, in both not just foreign but also domestic entities, was because Kash Patel felt like it was going to hurt the integrity of the case. Which, if you have multiple open and active investigations while you're trying to actively charge and try this guy for the specific charge of he was the sole person who did it, having other open investigations obviously hurts that claim. There were some other smaller arguments on the other side of that like I don't buy. Which somebody tried to say the complete opposite, which was if Kash Patel shuts down this investigation so quickly, it'll make it look like he had an emotionally charged, like a vendetta against Tyler Robinson, and that he ultimately didn't take it with the integrity that he wanted to. And so, I mean, every which way you look at it, I think overwhelmingly there is something fishy about that element altogether. Now, the reason why I didn't initially find it all that fishy when I had first gotten my hands on the story was because the New York Times article came out at the end of October. Listening to Alex Jones make his claims, supposedly Kash Patel caught a lid on it literally 10 days after the shooting. Like, so mid-September, not October 28th or 29th when the New York Times article dropped that everybody all of a sudden realized what was going on. So, make of that what you will, I guess. I think obviously a lot more is going to come out the closer we get to the trial. And I would expect at this point, we are either going to see an exuberant amount of evidence that was not previously shown, which may be all of this drone stuff, maybe the camera that's behind him, or you're going to get in a very aggressively performative show trial, and it will probably ultimately result in Tyler Robinson being not guilty. So who knows? I already talked about James Fishback and Beardson. But I do want to go on to the community submission before we get too much further along here, actually. And shout out once again to House AI for knocking out of the park with another community submission.
This is today's community submission.
Now, today's community submission is actually very sad, and it kind of goes a bit more into the reason why they all must go. They all must go back, every single one. Fill the prisons or not, whatever you decide you want to do with these people, exile them from America, dump them in the ocean. I don't care, but just get them out. It's the story of Jeanette Markin. And Jeanette Markin was a 75-year-old woman who was literally, no joke, standing on the corner waiting for the light to change so she could cross the street, and was unfortunately assaulted on video by a repeat offender with a broken piece of wood that had not only loose screws in it, but a massive bolt at the end, which I would believe is the reason why she lost her eye. She will never gain her eyesight back. That eye is gone. Her cheekbone and some other elements of her skull were crushed, and she was 75 years old. So I'm going to pull you up this still frame here so you guys can take a look at this. And this is from NWokeness, an account I don't really ultimately appreciate too much, but they nailed it out of the park. There were 0 stories on any of it. I'm going to bring up the article too, because the Zero Hedge had a great little chart here. 0 mentions in the mainstream media for Jeanette Markin at all. Nothing. Not a single lick of anything. But you bet your white behind that if they were any other color, if it's any other thing, not a hate crime enough, obviously. Because you can do whatever you want to white people. Hell, a white person can say the wrong word. You have a free license to essentially just murder them in the street. That's what the way that the social fabric it would make you believe or lead you to believe. Have a good night, Mr. Patrick. And good luck putting your daughter to bed. I know how sometimes that can be a 15-minute ordeal or a 45-day nightmare. And so in addition, let me get off this one. This is so bright, Lord have mercy. Here's a still frame. This is, what's his name? His name is Fale Vagalepe Peya. Sounds very American to me. And that is him wielding this before she's about to lose her eye forever. Man, she must have deserved it for being white, huh? So other close-ups here of this incident happening. Let me get rid of some of these here too. This is who she is right here. This is him being tried in court. Other still frames here. Her obviously in the hospital recovering. And wow, would you look at that? The guy who did it had a long, violent record of stabbings and drugs. No joke, he literally stabbed somebody 8 times at a party. And it wasn't the only person he stabbed at that party. Understand how insane it is that there's no media mentions at all of something that we have been screaming and clamoring about for the last few years. That the immigrants cannot assimilate, they cannot exist here, they do not possess the values that they need to be civilized enough to exist in this nation without literally killing, raping, and harming our own people. And it happens to a little old lady who's waiting politely to cross the street. She pressed a button, she's obeying the fabric, the social order, the social contract, and in a drunken stupor, I don't even know if he was drunk, he just could be off something, he drags this piece of wood with screws out of it and takes this woman's eyesight from her right eye. And not a single journalist in the mainstream media had the slightest bit of humanity to even halfway write a report on this woman. You don't hate the media enough. You don't hate half this country enough. And I say that not in essence of like hating them for who they are, but hating them because you don't understand, you're not framing it correctly. You must hate evil. We must smite evil. We have to ensure that we are doing whatever we can to protect our own from evil. And a long, long time ago, that was what the media and the news and the journalists were known as. They were a long, long time ago known as people who were willing to put themselves in harm's way to get to the truth, to protect the general public. And now it's the complete opposite. I will play the bit of this video. I'm not going to play any portion of it actually harming her because I just don't want to. But I would like to fast forward a bit to when the cops start talking because this will piss you off even more. And I think we can start right here, actually, with the still frame here. Just as Tix had mentioned earlier in there, this is one of the EMTs, or the paramedics, whatever you call them. asking, who is this guy? With the cop responding, he's a regular. He usually punches. Wow. Very helpful cop. Let's watch this video.
He's a regular. He usually punches. I guess today he decided to escalate things way worse than his usual.
Where is he usually?
He's usually just up and down third.
As paramedics race her to the hospital, it becomes obvious police know Folly Pea well.
Do you have the suspect's ID?
Yeah, suspect's ID. He's being searched right now. Yeah. You know him?
Oh, he's notorious for random assaults on 3rd Street.
Court records show Pea had multiple prior convictions for assault, including stabbing someone 8 times at a party.
Was that?
I take no chances with
and it's not her responsibility to know like what parts are good, what parts are,
this is her son.
Like she cannot walk there.
Andreas Verikis is Jeanette
Pay
Markham's
attention
son.
to what he says at the very end.
Right now, she's out of the 2nd surgery.
After several surgeries, she's been told she won't recover sight in her
coming
eye
up.
and may need even more reconstructive surgeries.
To take like a wood club with nails and just no, I'm gonna hit her with all the force on her face. It's like that's not someone you can recover or help. I don't understand that.
That's not someone you can recover, and he was probably getting ready to say rehabilitate, and I agree. And that's part of the issue here, right? Obviously, across the board, now being tough on crime, repeat offenders. Oh, the judge let him off here. The FBI knew about him. We got to put people in jail. We have to put these people in jail. And that's why I wanted to highlight it. You know, the cop shouldn't be like having an inside running joke or like knowing or like it's just a thing in the department that when we deal with this guy, like we know he just constantly does illegal things and is out on the street. Like, how, like, to me it would be like, how are you going to work the next day? If you're the cop in that district, what would be even the point of being a cop if you know everybody that you go and arrest is on the street tomorrow? I mean, seriously, like you literally would not. I mean, like if you're asking me, like I have no incentive to do it now, especially if you're going in there, you want to be a cop because you want to better serve the public. Well, you can't when there's black judges in there left and right going, oh, here's $5 bail, here's $5 bail, he's free. So maybe this is how you get a whole class of these cops who literally only care about their own safety, i.e., which, you know, these early draws and like, you know, over the top, you know, not letting people, you know, walk or, you know, having early misfires and being concerned with the general public secondarily, themselves first, the public second. Yeah, imagine saying that what a dude who beats his wife. Yeah, dude, he usually hits her just with his hands though. Because these people are evil, man. Very, 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 very dark individuals. Very, very dark. And shout out again to House for that too. For that. And I'll end with this too. In 2025 alone, Fale Vagalepa Pea had been booked by the county jail 8 times. Yeah, I think I would just not even care if I was the cop anymore. Be like, oh, that's Fale? Dude, I'm not even going to sign the paperwork, dude. Like, there's no point doing the paperwork if it's going to be out here tomorrow. And it was in that, when I was looking through that story with House, and so, you know, prayers over to Mrs. Jeanette Markin. I do apologize for having that very unfortunate circumstance happening to you. We got another judge by the name of Joy Kennedy doing very similar shenanigans. I can't even say shenanigans, doing very similar criminal activity. And this one I actually saw a response to from Asmongold. Now, this is again posted by NWokeness, but this is Judge Joy Kennedy. And earlier this month, she lowered the bail for a repeat violent offender to $5,000 in Cleveland, meaning he only needed to pay $500 to get out, which he didn't even do. A third-party nonprofit called the Bail Project did, and that needs to be made illegal. But 5 days later, after getting out, paying his bail and being out on bond, kills Ben McComas. This shouldn't be happening. In a just society, it would never happen. But I want to make that point clear again, that it wasn't even him who paid the $500. It was a non-profit called the Bail Project that paid the money out. A third-party organization just showed up, paid the money, and now there's another violent offender. It needs to be made illegal. Maybe there's better arguments against it than that, but like, dude, third-party, non-profits, random people showing up to bail out criminals, got to be made illegal. It's got to be limited to like family and friends. I guess friends might even be too loose. It's got to be limited to like blood relatives. And Bail Project's probably one of these stupid Soros-funded, left-wing, just large donor-backed, revolving funds. Scott Bessent probably worked there for 2 years. And nothing. And nothing. And to top it all off, to top everything off that we've talked about so far, Donald Trump's comments about largely the Epstein debacle, but just the State of the Union, is that people are talking about this Epstein stuff because it's taking away from all the Republican successes. Where can someone point little old me to the Republican success? I've seemed to have lost my way. Are we in the golden age? It's very dark in here. It is a literal joke. And quite frankly, I am very, very over it. I am very ready to get very, very unfriendly very quickly. Very much in the same way that Megyn Kelly said that she's not going to be a polite friend to Candace Owens anymore. Which I thought was funny. Okay. Just say how you really feel, Megyn. Like you're still hiding behind, PR. The Open Society Foundation does need sued into, well, here's the thing. Where's our FBI? No joke, probably helping the Brown University shooter, I would imagine. Uncle House says a regular middle American gets speeding tickets while the elite F kids and the poor rob and assault with no accountability. Yep. Yeah. Like to me, I'm like, to put it in my shoes, like I think of all the times, like, and people who live in Ohio, exactly what I'm talking about. 33, there's no reason I should be seeing highway patrol members every 5 miles on 33, dude. It is only white people. It is the industrial parkway. It is only a bunch of whites going to work and going home, dude. It is one of the nicest roads and the most literally nothing happened roads of all time. And it is just covered in highway patrol officers. And the reason why is because it sits between two larger metro areas and they are avoiding actually going into the city where they would have to actually look at black people and they'd have to actually put the cuffs on them and take them to jail. And everybody knows it. I went 4 miles over the speed limit. Now I'm getting pulled over and having to stare down the barrel of a $180 ticket. But he said, you know what? I'll let you off with a warning. I'll just say you weren't wearing your seatbelt. That one's only $130. It's like, my brother in Christ, if you don't take your ass to the downtown of Columbus and get these literal just non-Americans out of this nation, if you don't clean up the gang activity that I can see from my front door and my wife will attest to this one, for the love of all that is good, I lived next to a Walmart for about 2 years. Every night, almost to the T, they would drag race in the mother effing parking lot all the way until like 5 or 6 in the morning. But God forbid I go a couple miles over the speed limit. The cops aren't doing shit. But we all know that. Everybody knows it. Everybody knows the cops have their usual hangout places. It's nowhere near the crime. It's nowhere near the criminal activities. But when I'm Ubering, here's what really was driving it home for me, was because I was doing insurance and I was Ubering at the same time. So I was just working constantly. So, no joke, I noticed that my registration's been expired for literally 3 hours. I got pulled over one time and got ticketed. And it sent my license to being suspended too. But that's a whole story for another day. 3 hours expired. I'm getting pulled over by some black dude. It is what it is, man. The law is the law. So if the law is the law, then like, can you tell me like where black people get an exception? Can you tell me like when you guys build your boards for your routes for all the different officers to take, how do you guys all end up at near the same Dunkin' Donuts on High Street? Really? And it's getting to the point too where it's like, I don't need numbers. No one needs to show me a post. I don't need an article. I have eyes. It's not like the whole lived experience, but there comes a certain point where it's like, you can't lie on something like that. You can't come out inside and say the sun is red. I've been here for the last decade, my brother in Christ. And shit all the time. And so going back to when I'm Ubering, like I'm in these bad, shitty areas all the time now because I'm Ubering, right? So I'm picking up orders. Sometimes I'm picking up orders from like black-owned restaurants or Somalian chains where like we don't speak English, but like I just flash my phone and he's like, Ada, and he points me to where I need to go grab the order. I did that for a hot minute. No comps in sight, dude. But you bet I cross 270. I start going into Dublin, where you can see the Dublin Kaufman School from the highway. Cops everywhere, dude. Locking it down. They're like, we're protecting this area. Our lives depend on it. It's just such a joke, dude. I have zero respect for literally any man who's 5 years older than me or beyond that. I really don't. Like, and I wish I didn't feel this way, and my dad is an exception to that. But so much of this, I look and I go, like, the men who are older than me, who have had the chance and opportunity to right these wrongs, sat there and went along with it. And I will never let that go. I won't. And maybe it'll be me holding a grudge, and I should probably ultimately be forgiving of these people. But it can't be forgotten. It can't be forgotten that part of the reason that we are here is because you chose to be weak men instead of strong men. Or rather, that you chose to be bystanders instead of standing up. Can never forget that. So that's kind of a bit of the community submissions there. Jeanette Markin and then Joy Judge is just disgusting, dude. Disgusting. And, obviously it's racial. It's like, oh, I see a black man. I'm the black woman. I gotta take it easy on him, boss. Like, yeah. So that kind of gets us closer to the end of it. There's a few pieces I wanted to cover here too, between like the Columbus ICE versus immigrants. It's kind of in the same vein here. But here's one of the first ones, which is that you have the chief of police in Columbus is instructing, her name's Elaine Bryant, instructing her own police force, not to assist ICE during immigration operations. And instead, they are to observe federal agents and intervene if they witness any misconduct. It's like, so you're already ignoring all the blacks who sling dope and anything else all over the city. You're already ignoring all the fact that the Somalians are literally driving into telephone poles and McDonald's at rates that should have never been allowed by God in the first place. But what you will do is follow around the ICE agents in Ohio who are already being videotaped, being followed around while they're trying to do their job. You want to make it even harder for them. Hopefully we can get some video and footage of some stupid Latina, walking up and saying, hey, you're being a little mean to him. There are things I would need a Rumble channel to say, and I'm going to have to quickly get to that point. Then going to another one. So this is the chief of police. We have the mayor. So here's the mayor of Columbus. Mayor of Columbus is putting out some like gay self-help thing. Let me actually go back to this.
Speak with you about.
And so what's the mayor saying? The Democrat mayor of Columbus just released a video alerting illegal aliens ICE is in town. Like, dude. And so somebody made the point here, and I don't know if it's on here, I don't know if you can see it, but this is a better one. So obviously, what's the end result of this mayor coming out and, alerting illegal aliens? He's literally coming out. He's like, you guys need to know your rights. Make sure you have your IDs on you. You want to have this documentation. He's like, buff. So Eric Daughtry finds this and attached in the screenshots that wasn't on video, but he finds this. Save these numbers. There's 3 different numbers. So now they're using government resources to help aid and abet the criminal aliens that are in Ohio. pull funding now. Brother, if the Trump administration could manage at least one thing, it would at least be to be able to get the most basic arrest of people who are violating federal law. But we're not getting anything. All I'm getting is the most gayest and weakest and sloppiest of slop on my timeline, day in and day out, of the most unsolicited boomer retarded takes and AI versions of Trump doing retarded shit that pisses me off the more I see them. We're getting nothing. We're getting nothing. The Trump train is over. It got off, and hell, at this point, somebody push it straight to Auschwitz. This is a absolute behemoth level of a scam. And now it's too late. Now it ultimately is. And I hate to say it too late. Now now is the time, like, we're scrambling for candidates. Like, how can we fix it by 2028? It's like, is there one man? You know, maybe Casey Push is the answer, and I hope he is. But like, who saves us now? Who's going to compete with JD Vance? Who's going to compete? Because that's the thing. You have to compete with the people who breathe through their mouths. And I'm not trying to be offensive, dude. I'm really not. But like, I cannot explain to you. Like, I am day in and day out just blown away by the absolute retardation of comments and posts that I see. So surely somebody can come out of the blue, some random possibly. The longer it goes on, I don't see that happening. And I feel it's very easy observation right now to say the left is going to sweep in the midterms and the left is going to dominate us when it comes to the election. Well, that is a massive super chat house. Thank you very much. Holy crap. You don't have to do that, man. I appreciate that very much, dude. Thank you. And Merry Christmas to you as well, my brother. Hey, and I hope things are still going okay with you, man. I know you're probably getting pretty exhausted up there. So I hope you can relax too, at least on the holidays of Christmas of all times, man. But I appreciate you all. Thank you very much, man. So, government resources. Then Eric Daughtry says, pull their funding. Pull their funding? Dude, hang them over the side of the ship and shake them until they give us what we want. Like, pull their funding. You did not have to do that, brother. The house is going to set a chain reaction off. Don't do this if you guys can't do it. But I appreciate that very much, Titan. Thank you very much, man. Appreciate you, Titan. Merry Christmas to you as well, my brother. Titan been here. I think House has been too, man. You guys might have to argue it out who's been here first. But man, Titan, I remember, was like the only person who was super chatting me there in the early days. It was funny. Before the channel was monetized, before anything, really, before any of you knew who I was, and before I even really knew where I was going to be at in this. Titan, me and him commenting back and forth on a video that's got 30 views, and super chatting left and right, and I appreciate you, brother. Thank you for that. And House 2, obviously, these are two of the mods here who've been here for a hot minute. Obviously, Tix Bomber there as well. One thing I am sad about, and I haven't talked about this for a hot minute, but I will because it's while we're being a little chummy with each other, is Donnie. I have not heard from Donnie in a long time, and I'm hoping he's okay. I really am. And I don't know anything beyond what most people know, and I don't spend too much time on it. But just pray for him. I think he really had a serious, unfortunate series of events, and I just hope he's in a good spot. I mean, it was somebody who'd been here for a long time. Top chatter, top supporter. He'd be in the Discord left and right. He's a bulldog, man. And we're probably going on at least 2 or 3 months now where I've not really been in contact with him much, and it sucks. It's like right at the moment, like the channel starts taking off, he's gone. And so I want to let it be known if he ever finds this or watches this that his support meant the world to me. I don't know if he'll ever come back. But he single-handedly, all the one-on-one conversations we had, him pushing me. I mean, this is the guy who thought I was trolling him. Donnie was the reason why I even heard about Nick Fuentes. you know, he was saying he thought I was trolling him because all the points I was taking. He was like, dude, you sound like Nick. Like how have you not heard about this guy? And I was like, well, I always thought I was supposed to avoid that guy. Just to give you a bit of lore there. And so I hope he's doing well, man. And Donnie is a legend. Don't get me wrong. Donnie is a massive legend here. But finishing out a couple of these, the ICE things here. What you're probably, and most people are probably seeing around their feeds as well, is this video of a bunch of these Somalis here. And again, thank you guys for the super chats. I appreciate you greatly. Is this Columbus, Ohio protest? I'm going to turn this off because it's really loud and I don't want to get copyrighted from the music. But they found out which hotel here in Columbus a group of ICE agents were staying at, and a bunch of nuns basically set up shop outside the hotel. It looks like they're in the parking lot across from it, which isn't too close. So they're probably not doing really too much damage of preventing them from sleeping. But all in all, it's just a joke. And I've seen a lot of these demonstrations and protests across Columbus. There's Facebook groups that I've been privy to, some of which were even like brought up to me because of my wife's friends who are like around the Columbus area that are organizing, protecting, putting out notices, infographics. Like, we think that the ICE are going to be in this region today, so avoid this. They're sending out call out text. You know, mass groups of people aren't showing up to Menards or Lowe's, depending on which day it is. So it's just like, it's cooked in the fact of like, no matter how much you even wanted it from the top down, it's like you have a huge plethora of people in this country right now who are seeking it out themselves, who want it to be this way, who want it to be worse. And so, you know, still working with that as a part of this matrix, obviously it provides a lot more resistance than we would like, which is why I think it's putting us in a really bad spot to be losing a lot of our ethos as a nation with this Epstein stuff, while also having probably well over 80 million illegals who shouldn't be here, who aren't American in the slightest bit. So I think as we move forward, going into next week, as we go through this week, I don't know if I'll be here on Christmas. There's a chance I will be, and it might not be long by any means, but I do think I might want to try something. While we're at the end here too, I do want to ask people their thoughts on more casual streams. Like obviously I'll studio offensively accurate, but I could also stream for longer periods of time and just simply react to stuff and do a bit more like reacting to videos, like basically what every other streamer does. I'm curious what the ask is there too. I just prefer to be organized and do it like this, but more of a production than it is kind of like just reacting to stuff. But you know, going back to things like, you know, scary videos and stuff like that, you know, anything like that, any suggestions is there too. And because I would like to be putting up some more members content as well. So just let me know. You can DM me, tag me on X. I'm always available. I know I don't ultimately Bible stream as well. That's a good idea. I can do that too. I can do more Christian oriented stuff. So just reach out to me. I know there's a lot of people have me on Discord private messages and stuff, and I know I need to get it to you. Trust me, it's just difficult. I treat this like a job, and so I try to get prioritized the videos and the content out of the way, then reading the news so I know what's going on, formulating opinions before I just go up and start talking into a microphone. And it's very time consumptive. And so sometimes, like yesterday, the video takes me super late into the night. I don't finish with it. I didn't even shower for the first time yesterday until like 8:30. And then when I get out of the shower, I saw my daughter for 15 minutes. She's passed out. So I try to like, you know, do things as best as I can. Not complaint by any means at all. Don't take it as a complaint. It's just the way that my schedule is just currently right now. Well, here's the thing. Talking about the $1,000 self-deport to you. So this is another, glad that you brought that up. Here we're getting another show in the super chats. I'll pull this up here on screen. He says, I wonder if the 1K self-deportees are mad about the holiday bonus. Yeah, which is insane that they went up to $3,000. And now we're pushing for $3,000 for these immigrants to self-deport. And what followed that report, it was like a couple of days later, I think today or yesterday, is that the Trump administration is now going to garnish those who are defaulting on their student loans. So we're paying foreigners and taking money from actual Americans. It's crazy. I don't see, I mean, it doesn't matter anymore of like if it's intentional or unintentional. It's like, regardless of what you think, the reality is all these events happening are leading to and playing a part in the genocide of white America. I do appreciate that. Or Champion says, unless you're a top-notch production, I appreciate that, man. Become enema. I think that's how you say that. Numa. I might have to check that word out. You're making me probably look a little dumb. But is Nick doing a show tonight? As far as I've seen, I don't think he is. I think he's still sick from the flu, but I could be wrong about that. I do know that for a fact that Beardson is going to be with James Fishback, and so even if there's not a Nick show, I think that'll be a good bit of content to watch. But with that though, Numa was correct. Okay, nice, dude. Damn, I'm smart, dude. Sometimes. I think that was basically all the majority I wanted to make sure I touched. Pause. Covered. Pause. Talked about. I'm just messing. That kind of wraps us up. It is the 2-hour mark. Should be seeing this on the podcast tomorrow on Spotify and Apple Music as well. Follow me there. Also, make sure you smash the like button if you have not already. It helps obviously tremendously. And tomorrow we may get just a stream or a video. It depends. I have to do some Christmas shopping too, but I'm just going to try to get some content out. If I do that, I might just stream. It's a bit easier. So we'll see. Regardless, you should be getting a video or a stream from me tomorrow. And then I might even be here on Christmas Day. The Groyper Report. That's the one thing I forgot about. The Groyper Report, as of right now, it's not happening on Saturday. Josh is going to be out of town. And I'm just going to take that day off. And it's already looking like we might not even have that much Nick content this week regardless. So we might just go ahead and call it a wrap on that. Sunday show, I'm not sure. I don't think we're going to be doing a Sunday show. So NAV may be done with content the closer we get to the weekend, just so you guys know. But with that, thank you guys very much. I appreciate the super chats and I appreciate you guys. I'm rooting for you guys. Christ is King as always. And seek first the kingdom of God. And I will always say too, I know the journey can be difficult, especially when you are surrounded by elements that make you, feel like everything's fake or it's being subverted. But I would always encourage you, and it is the number one priority, is to making sure that you are pushing and resonating and keeping alive and growing and building your relationship with God and Christianity in general, and your belief and knowing the history, the context, who you are. In addition to that, obviously, deport Kash Patel at this point, throw him in prison, and ban Pam Bondi and every woman over the weight of 120 pounds, chain them to a kitchen, do not let them leave, and Lord willing, guys, we will one day get our country back. Appreciate you all. Merry Christmas if I don't see you again, and should be back sometime this week. But all right, peace out, everybody. Take care.
Get up and get out. Get out. Get out.
I have a question for you.
Say Christ is Lord. Say Christ is Lord. Say it. You say Christ is Lord. Get out. Get out.